Hello and welcome to TALRadio. At TAL, we connect those who are in need to those who are willing to give. And giving is not an easy task. And not everyone in this world is actually capable of giving. You're listening to a beautiful series on self coaching, and as usual, I have with me the wonderful, the magical, and the ever smiling Andrew Talent. Andrew is a self coaching expert, and he's actually helped leaders across the globe. Andrew, welcome to Tal Radio.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, uh, I believe people who've been following this series and all the episodes, we've already done with 6 episodes. And the last time, what we really spoke about was a hell lot of drama. There was a victim, there was a savior, and there was a persecutor. But this time, there's nobody. It's just I, me, myself. This time, it is all about who am I and self awareness. So, over to you. So, you tell us what is self awareness, first of all, if I may ask?
Sure. Well, self-awareness, the best way to describe it is when we're doing something in the moment, we're aware of ourself in that moment and how we're being in terms of behavior, how we're making people feel, how we're being in relationship. Now, we tend to be like this when we are present. If we're really busy and we're in the past or we're in the future, or we're worried about what somebody thinks, or we're feeling anxious, we are lacking self-awareness then about who we are. So today's episode is all about trying to connect with who we are as human beings. It's the most difficult question I was asked in 2017. I'll explain that in a minute. But hopefully by the end of this, people will have a sense of how can they take the next step just to start connecting with who they are rather than who they may think they are or who other people think they are.
Okay. So, since the cat is out of the bag, so you have to tell about us about the 2017 incident. What was that all about?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'll reference people to a film. So there's a great film out there called Anger Management. And you can get it on, you can see it on YouTube or anywhere else, but it's got Jack Nicholson in, who is a great actor, but also Adam Sandler, a comedy actor. And it's a comedy. It's all about a psychotherapist who has a number of people in his class who always ask the annoying question, "Who are you, Dave?" And Dave comes back with, "I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a brother." And then he says, "Yeah, but who are you, Dave? Not what kind of role do you play? Who are you?" And he keeps asking the question. And I think when we're asked that question, "Who are you?" For the first time, we come back with a very superficial, protective answer, really. And in 2017, I embarked on my course to do coaching with the AOEC in London, the Academy of Executive Coaching. And believe it or not, Sandy, for the first 4 hours of that course, and I had to keep answering it again and again, going into deeper layers and deeper layers and deeper layers. And I'll be honest with you, in 2017, I don't think I really knew who I was. I think I knew who I was, but I didn't really understand it. So that's where it started for me. I encourage people to look at the film as well. And what we're going to do is just explore 3 things that people out there listening to this can do just to connect more about who they are.
Okay. So now you need to really dive into those 3 things. And first of all, I I think everybody needs to watch that movie, Anger Management. We all have that issue. We really, I think, all as human beings, we have that issue.
Absolutely.
So thanks a lot for that.
No. So, and interestingly, being very open now, if you were to ask people around me before 2017, I think they would have said I had my own anger management issues. I didn't know how to handle anger. And then as I discovered who I was a bit more, then I started to deal with that. And I can truly say I don't get very angry these days. I channel that in a different way. But let's start with step number 1. So
Yes,
the good news, absolutely. So the good news is that for anybody out there that's curious about answering this question for themselves, there are some really good self-assessments that people can get access to either for free or very cheaply on the internet. Now, I'm just going to explain a couple of them because they will allow you to get some insight to how other people view you and some sense of who you are. Now, what I would say is be open-minded when you do these assessments because you sometimes get answers that you don't agree with. But just be curious about what it's saying, because you answered the survey. So if you answer the survey and it's giving you those answers, there's a chance there's going to be some truth in it. But I'll go over a few. So I'll just list these and then pick out two that I think are really, really important. So if you type into the internet assessment, and one of them is called 16 personalities. That's a free one, 16 personalities. It's a theme on MBTI, so it gives you some sense of how you show up in behaviors. Another one, which is a free one, is an Enneagram. It's a bit more in depth. It gives you 9 readings of who you are as a person. That's ENNEAGRAM, Enneagram. Have a look at that one. And then there's probably 3 others that I think people should look at. One is very, very common, called DISC, which we'll go into in a later episode. DISC. Another one is called Insights, and then a final one, which you do have to pay a very small amount, is called Clifton Strengths. Now, if you go to any of those and have a look, and particularly the free versions, I think, rather than pay first, just to get a little report about you and how you answer things and how you behave, you'll be amazed about how it makes you feel about how you show up in certain relationships. And what you can do once you've taken that first step is just show the report to some good friends and family and just say, is this me? Do I come across like this? And most people say, yeah, that's you. Yeah. And it gives a sense. So that's the first step, I would say. And for those that are listening to this, if they want to approach me directly on LinkedIn, I have a free tool that I use, which is called the GC Index, which is all about energy. And they can take that for free with me anytime they want. But there's lots of other ones out there as well, but they're the ones I would recommend.
Awesome. I think everybody's going to try the free tool first.
Yeah.
But as they say, there's nothing free in this world.
No, absolutely. And what they do is they get you to do the free one, give you some insight, and then upsell you and say, okay, if you want a fuller report now, then click the link here. And it's up to you, if you want to do
Which
that.
is certainly better.
Yeah.
I mean, good things comes at a price, as they say.
Absolutely.
All right, so moving on, I would really like to know, why is self-awareness important? Why do we need to be aware of ourselves?
It's a great question. And I'll answer that question by giving an example of somebody I was coaching once, and they won't mind me mentioning this. So I said the question, who are you? I'm very annoying with that. All my clients get that question. And the answer, and this is not a wrong answer, I'm just telling you an answer which is very common. The person who responded to that question described who they were in 15 different versions of themselves, depending on who they were with at the time. So it had these different masks for people they would show up. So it might be a loving person, a challenging person, a deferential person, a commanding person. But they actually do this in all their relationships. And so the reason I'm mentioning that is because if you think about doing that every day or every week, it's exhausting. Trying to be something to somebody else because that's what you think you should be. So reason why self-awareness is so important is because if we can be really aware about who we're being in this moment, and is it really us? Are we being authentic, or are we trying to be someone which we think the other person in our relationship wants us to be? They're going to find us out, and we're not going to be true to ourselves. And it's it's proven now. You can look at this on the internet. The most effective leaders in the world, wherever they are, whether it's in the East or the West, are really successful because they show up authentically, consistently. People know they're going to get the type of leadership they get each day in a consistent way. So it's important from a self-leadership perspective, leadership of others, and understanding who we are. So authenticity is all linked to self-awareness.
Got it. That's pretty interesting. And so you just told us about one of the ways that we can just self-assess ourselves and help to, know a little bit better about ourselves. What are the 2 other ways? Since you mentioned there are 3 of them.
Sure. So great question. So number 2, and this is really hard for people to do, but I really encourage all the listeners and people watching this to do this. Do you remember in one of the previous episodes, we talked about the wheel of life?
Oh, yes.
And in that wheel of life, we had 2 wheels. One of the examples I gave was all the roles that you have in life: father, mother, sister, whatever it is, a job role. And in each of those roles, I want you to take one, the first one that comes to mind, and I want you to write down on a piece of paper the question, who am I in relationship, full stop, question mark. Who am I in relationship? Now, when you write that down and you start then to write the answer to that in the role, on the wheel of life. So I'll give you an example. Who am I in relationship as a father? Okay, let's start with that one because I'm a father. And for me to write down all the words that come up, I am in relationship as a father. And there'll be 5, 6, 8 words. You can keep on going as you want, all adjectives. And that'll give you a sense about how you're connecting in that particular role. And then you do the same thing for who am I in relationship as a leader? Who am I in relationship as a part of the team? Who am I in relationship as a member of the community? And ask yourself this question over and over again in each of these roles, and you will start to see a pattern of the words that are appearing in each of those roles. Now,
Okay.
once you've done that, you start to get a sense about what's important to you and how you are in relationships. So that's the second step, and there's a second part to this, which is even harder, but I really encourage people to do it, is once you've done that and you've got the words, get a different piece of paper and ask the question of yourself, who am I not in relationship as a father?
Oh,
Okay, as a
okay.
mother, as a sister, as a member of the community, and do the same thing. This is harder because we have to think about who we're not
True.
being in those relationships. Now, once we've got those two questions answered, and it takes a while to do this, you need some space and time, you'll have a really good sense of, from the first question, how am I generally showing up as a person? So it's good to get some awareness, and you might be able to support that with your self-assessment that you've done. But secondly, more importantly, the things that you've written down to the second question are usually things that I call edges. And what I mean by that is they're probably things that you want to work on and actually change and become more like. So for me, for example, it might be as a father in relationship, I am not as present as I want to be. For example, I'm not around as much as I want to be. So when I say that, it usually means, because I've selected it out, one of those particular elements that you're not being in relationship, to maybe think about how you can work on being more like that. So for me, being a father, I'm not as present as I like to be. How do I find a way to be more present in relationship? So it's a lovely way, a lovely start learning more about yourself and what's important to you right now in the various relationships you have on the wheel of life. So that's the second step.
Since you have interacted with so many people and you've helped them in this awareness journey, the self awareness journey, what is more difficult to know about who you are or who you are not? Or is it like, are people, or on which sentence are they more harsh or more subjective on?
It's a great question. So what I tend to find is that people are a bit more positive on who they are. So when they answer that question, it's more positive language that comes out, and that's very normal. And it's usually free flowing, so they are usually connected to it, and it's words like loving, reliable, dependable, what it might be. When it comes to answering the second question, most people find that very difficult to answer. First of all, to even understand the question. So most people say, well, what do you mean not in relationship? Well, it's the question, who are you not in relationship?
True.
So they find it difficult to answer. And because they're thinking maybe more about negative things, they're less likely to be free flowing with it. And it tends to be a bit harder to get the words. But the reason that it's hard is because they are things that we're probably wanting to be more like. So I'll give you an example. I was working with a client recently where he said, in most of my relationships, particularly with my boss, I'm probably not as assertive as I need to be. So that gave him a clue that for his relationship to be better with his boss, he needed to be more assertive. So again, a sense of just awareness. That's what I need. And we'll come to the third part in a minute. But you can start testing this out once you've got the material. But yeah, usually the second question is harder.
All right, so moving on, I would really like to know, does self awareness, does it help in personal growth and transformation also?
It does. And that's a great question for me to maybe move on to the third step because it answers that question. So it's all very well as getting awareness through our self-assessment about who we are. It's just a framework for answering some questions to get some awareness. We can then become aware about in our particular roles on the wheel of life, how we're showing up in relationships and how we're not. But then what are we going to do with it? So in terms of our personal growth and transformation, what we can do is say, now I have that information, in my relationship as a father, how do I want to be in relationship? Now I've got all this awareness. How do I want to be? And it might be I say, well, you know what? I want to be more loving. I want to be more natural. I want to be more available. I want to be more present. And they're all things that come to me about what I want, so who I want to be. And that's the action piece. How do I then move forward into that? And it might be one step to say, I'm just going to spend more time at home at a weekend rather than actually going to be with my friends. And that's one way for me to do that. But it leads to action. Now, the only way that this works, in my experience, because it's very difficult to do it on your own, just pick one role where you want to be different for how you are now and actually start to work on it. But ask the person that you're in relationship with, so for me, with my children as a father, about getting help from them for me to try this, because it's hard for me to change. So if I'm going to say to my children, I'm going to be more present at the weekend to be with you, can you give me some ideas about how we could spend our time together? And
Wow.
ask for some feedback from you if you feel when I'm with you, whether it's fun, whether it's not fun, or whether actually you don't want me around at all. So let's not do this on our own. Let's get feedback from our loved ones, our friends, our colleagues, as we're trying to make a change, and get them to give us some feedback when we start to do these things in a different way and we're starting to make a positive impact. So you're absolutely right to ask the question, Sandy. It's a level of awareness. Then it's about how do we want to be, and then how do we change with the support of others around us.
That is so beautiful because, it's like having everybody together because at the end of the day, you are changing for them. You're doing everything, you're just making yourself aware about every relationship that you are into. So it's better to have the other party also in it, be a part of it,
Absolutely.
basically. Awesome. So, was it the third way? Like, as you said, there are three techniques of self awareness. So, was it the third one, or do we still have something that needs to be out of the bag now?
No, that was the third one, but there is a final point in terms of all of this. We become aware, we want to make changes, but then we need to see how is that being felt by other people. So usually we start to feel good about ourselves, but how are other people feeling about it? So I think it's useful to have some kind of reflection. So as well as all the things we've talked about, to put time into our lives where it may be journaling that we do or speaking into a phone, we're just reflecting about how we're feeling about the progress we're making. And that's the final stage, really, just to make sure we've got some good learning to take forward and be kind to ourselves, because change is hard. First step, let's understand who we are. Let's understand who we want to be. Let's get some help in changing that, but also be kind to ourselves as we reflect on progress, because progress is very slow. But one step at a time, we can make a difference in terms of how we're showing up in our relationships.
Absolutely, one step at a time. So, what is that one advice that, or probably advices, I would say, that you would like to give it to someone who is actually struggling with self awareness, who wants to attain it, but they're in a confused state because not everybody has a coach like you?
Yeah, it's a great question, and there are different ways of doing this. So the listeners out there and the people watching this will have their different methods. So the first thing to do is, if you are someone that loves reading or loves listening to audiobooks, maybe just read or listen to a few stories of people. You can listen to podcasts about how people have changed their lives in terms of who they are as people. So the second way that people can find a way around this is to actually look at people around them that they know, so friends, family, colleagues in the community that they know have been on their own journey in terms of changing who they are. So that might be recovering from illness, it might be recovering from addiction, it might be recovering from a difficult situation, and you can see there's a difference in them. You feel it when you're around them, and just spend time with them. Ask them questions, learn from them about how they changed on their journey. So be curious, and then you can start applying that in your own life. So that's the second way. And the third way, I think, is just to be courageous to spend time alone a little bit with your thoughts, and maybe just starting to write down what you notice that comes up about who you are as a person. So, for example, today I was writing down, maybe when I give things to people, maybe I attach conditions to it without really explaining that. So maybe I've got some unconscious thing going on. And that's good for me to write down and be aware of, because it will change who I am in relationships. And then, do I actually believe that? Do I need to change it? So I think just writing, reflecting can help people. And of course, the final piece, which we'll talk about in a later episode, is there are now some very, very good apps out there. And if people are interested, again, please contact me because I can give them a link to and access to an app which is free, which is a self-coaching AI app. And it will ask you the question, who are you? And you can almost have a coach for free. But it's an AI tool, which is fantastic.
Moving on, I think before I let you go, because I know you were just around the corner, Christmas Eve, then of course your wife's birthday.
Yeah.
Oh, wishes to her from our side, in fact, the whole team side, I would say. How do you envision the journey of self awareness? Like, do you feel, does it have stages? How does one attain it? Like, I'm not talking about the time period, but the stages involved in it, basically.
It's a great question. I think we can have an analogy here about when we see a film that has different depths. So think about your favorite film that has different depths and texture in terms of a movie. We watch it for the first time and we enjoy it and we consume it and it's our favorite movie. So of course we watch it again. So in our house, by the way, it's Home Alone. Okay, great Christmas movie.
Oh,
All the kids love it. It's great. But every time you watch that, you notice something different that you didn't notice the first time because you've got a level of awareness about the story and what's going on. So it's the same about our own journey as human beings. Almost think about peeling back the layers of an onion. So me, the onion, the person, we peel back one layer to raise awareness about who I am as that person. And guess what? Beneath it, there's another. And then I become aware of that, and then I peel it back, and there's another. And eventually, we peel it back to the core of us, who we are. Normally we're formed from who we are by the age of 16, 18 years old as human beings, because our brain is hardwired at that point. And we're going back all the way to that kind of person who we are. But it's awareness. I'm still becoming aware now, all my experience every single day about who I am. And that makes me more authentic every day. So it's not until the day that we're not on this planet, we're always learning. As long as we're curious, we're actually asking these questions about who we are, we can learn every single day. So awareness is building all the time.
absolutely. Like you said, as long as we are curious, we can really keep on building the self awareness thing that we are, the journey that we are onto basically. I don't know, but I really feel that I'm a very curious human being.
You are. You ask me great questions.
Oh, thank you so much. And okay, just on a lighter note, like when you mentioned the movie Home Alone, I'm sure everybody on this planet must have watched that movie tons of time. And as you said, that every time you watch the movie, there's something new. I'm not sure if it is new, but probably something that I never uh, literally focused upon. But I don't know if you know it, but there's a small character. They're played by Donald Trump also in that movie.
Absolutely. He's a cameo. Absolutely. He
Yes,
is in that.
that's a cameo, which I recently discovered.
Absolutely.
So when you mentioned the movie, and I'm like, yes, this every time you do the same thing, but it's always something new that you discover about yourself. That is so beautiful. So on that beautiful note and the beautiful winter season, the beautiful holiday season, wishing you a great year and a Merry Christmas, and to all our lovely listeners, no matter in which part of the world you're watching or listening to us. By the way, you can listen to us on Spotify and you can watch us on YouTube and, of course, the TALRadio website. So thank you so much, Andrews, and it was a pleasure. Lovely talking to you once again on TALRadio.
And see everyone in 2025.
Thank you so much. Have a great day ahead. Thank you.